The McDonald's Monopoly game enticed customers with the promise of winning prizes for decades. But from 1989 to 2001, there were almost no legitimate winners of the high-value game pieces. Little did we know, the game was tainted by a web of deceit and organized crime. Hey y'all, I'm Christina. You're listening to History and Hearsay, and today I have a very interesting story about a McVillain.
The game Monopoly has come to life at McDonald's. Win a McDLT, Coca-Cola, or $1 million.
If you're a 90s kid or older, you most certainly will remember the excitement of peeling off one of those squares, wondering if today was the day that you would hit it big. Sadly, the best prize I ever won was a fry or a McFlurry, which I have to admit was still pretty exciting, especially since it was pretty rare that I got a chance to eat fast food. The McDonald's Monopoly game was introduced in 1987. There were several different variations of the game all over the world, but the basic gist was that there were these little stickers on the side of certain McDonald's food items, and customers would peel the sticker off to reveal a Monopoly square, just like the board game Monopoly. The prizes you could win ranged anywhere from a free food item to cars all the way up to $1 million. Some stickers were instant winners, and some of them had multiples that went together, so you had to collect like specific game pieces to win a prize. The most common instant prize winners, of course, were food items like I mentioned earlier, maybe an order of fries, a free drink, or a McFlurry ice cream treat. Of course, winning an ice cream cone also came with the realization that finding a McDonald's with a working ice cream machine was about the same odds as winning the $1 million grand prize. In the beginning of the game, you could simply walk into any McDonald's and ask the cashier for a ticket. And this was so that McDonald's Monopoly wouldn't be considered a form of gambling because you didn't technically have to make a purchase to play. And McDonald's had a really good thing going. They were enticing customers to buy unhealthy food with the hopes of winning a big cash prize, or at the very least, more unhealthy food. And as you may have guessed, the McDonald's Monopoly game was the most successful fast food marketing campaign of all time. Lots of people were spending more money on McDonald's than they normally would just for the chance of winning one of those prizes. So McDonald's had hired the Simon marketing firm, and they were the ones who had come up with the entire concept for the Monopoly game. And they were also the ones handling all of the behind the scenes details involved in the game, including producing the actual game pieces themselves. Simon Marketing hired Dittler Brothers Printing to make all the game pieces, and they handled US postage stamps and lottery tickets, so they were considered a very secure firm. Now, Simon Marketing was very concerned with ensuring that the McDonald's Monopoly game was conducted fairly, and they didn't want store employees or employees on the production line making the tickets to be able to actually steal winning tickets. And so they put some additional security measures in place to keep this from happening. They appointed their head of security, Jerome P. Jacobson, to take on the role of looking after the winning game pieces. Part of his job was to oversee that the game pieces were distributed equally across the U.S. without interference from anyone who might try to steal a winning game piece before it actually arrived at a McDonald's. Jacobson was a former police officer who was known for being a complete stickler for the rules. According to former employees of Simon Marketing, Jacobson was extremely strict. He inspected workers' shoes before allowing them to leave the plant just to make sure they weren't trying to sneak out any game pieces. And there were times when he even followed his employees into the bathroom. Like, you do what's committed, okay? Another large part of Jacobson's job was delivering the winning pieces from Dittler Brothers production house to the packaging facilities where the game pieces were then attached to random cup and French fry boxes before being sent to McDonald's locations worldwide. Jacobson was paid a very nice salary to fly all over the country delivering the winning game pieces in a case that was closed with tamper-proof seals. Now, in addition to making 6 times more than he had previously earned as a cop, all of Jacobson's expenses were paid along the way, which included flying in first class, fancy dinners, and luxury hotel stays. To keep Jacobson honest, Simon Marketing even hired an independent female auditor to travel with him and keep him under watchful eye. Sounds like she took her job just as serious as Jacobson took his. And it was said she did not let him out of her sight fight the entire time that they were traveling with those winning game pieces. So the two of them went on like this for a while, seemingly enjoying the perks of their job, until one day Jacobson observed something that he claims was the catalyst for him losing all of his morals. Or at least the ones revolving around money. So you may be wondering how Simon Marketing decided where to send the winning game pieces. Well, this was decided by using a computer that ran a program that would randomly select which McDonald's location to send the winning pieces to. So one day, while Jacobson was waiting to see where the computer would send him next, the program chose McDonald's in Canada to receive the winning $1 million ticket. He's like, oh, okay, I guess we're going to Canada. But then corporate called down and they ordered the program to be rerun until the winner showed up somewhere in the United States. Now, I'm not sure why the corporate offices hated Canadians so much, or maybe I am. But either way, you would think they would just not run the promotion in Canada if they didn't want any Canadian winners. But they were advertising the game in Canada the same as the United States, getting all of those additional sales in Canada as a result, and just refusing to actually let anyone there win any of the grand prizes. And after seeing this firsthand, Jacobson said that that's when he realized the game was already rigged, and he started thinking that maybe he would get in on that action himself. If the ones creating the game could make their own rules to benefit themselves, why couldn't he? Well, there was one very big reason, that pesky female auditor. Anytime Jacobson had his hands on a winning ticket, she was right there with him watching his every move. He just couldn't think of a way to outsmart her. Until one day, when there was a mailing error that would change everything. A box full of the tamper-proof seals, you know, the ones that were used to seal the case with the winning tickets inside. Yeah, those. A box full of them were mailed directly to Jacobson. Apparently, the company making the seals in Japan had made a mistake and the box ended up on Jacobson's desk. It was like a sign that it was meant to be, and Jacobson just knew that he had to find a way to make this happen. He still had the auditor following him around, but apparently she wasn't quite as dedicated to her job as Jacobson was, because the one place she did not follow him was into the bathroom. Amateur. So, on their next trip, Jacobson slips into the bathroom at the airport, removing the winning tickets from the tamper-proof packaging. He then replaces them with common pieces like free fries, a drink, or an ice cream. And then he closes that back up with one of the extra seals that he had on hand. And so begins the multi-million-dollar scam that would continue for 12 years. For obvious reasons, Jacobson couldn't just redeem the prizes himself, so he had to get a bit creative if he was going to turn a profit. He started small at first just to kind of see if he could get away with it. He gave a winning game piece worth $25,000 to his stepbrother Marvin. And once Marvin was able to redeem his ticket without any issues, Jacobson decided to continue on with his plan, which was to sell winning tickets to various friends and acquaintances for a fraction of their winnings. So maybe if he gave someone like a $10,000 ticket, then they would give him $2,000 finder's fee kickback kind of thing. So the first time he attempted this was with his local butcher. And so Jacobson's like, look, I'm going to give you this $200,000 winning ticket. In exchange, when you get your winnings back, I want you to give me $45,000. So he agrees to it. But unfortunately for Jacobson, the butcher had even worse morals than he did and decided he only wanted to pay Jacobson $4,000 for his troubles. Jacobson would later say that the butcher laughed in his face and told him, what are you going to do? Tell the cops? And he was right. There really was nothing that Jacobson could do about it. But this is what made him realize that he needed to find a new way of running his scam. He needed someone who could afford to pay him up front for his troubles so he didn't have to risk getting double-crossed again. He was, after all, the one putting his neck on the line to steal the winning tickets. Now, before Jacobson was able to kind of figure out a solution to his dilemma, McDonald's started having issues with a string of thefts revolving around the game. An employee at a Wisconsin McDonald's was caught stealing 3,000 tickets. Now, you'll remember this was at a time when you could just walk into the counter and ask for a ticket. Well, the employees had access to those tickets. They weren't really being regulated as to who was taking them, so they could just take them home. And probably the reason that that person was called is just because they stole so many at once. But in addition to this, they actually started having armed robberies happening at McDonald's around the country just to steal Monopoly game pieces. So this increase in theft kind of forced McDonald's to change the way the game was played. And the pieces that the cashiers were handing out started coming from a secure roll behind the counter. I'm not 100% sure how they did that, but they found some way to make it where people couldn't just take the tickets willy-nilly. So all of this was happening. It kind of made Jacobson a little bit skittish, and so his little scheme kind of came to a halt for a little bit until 1995 when McDonald's ramped up the game and they started putting their game pieces on everything they sold. Cups, fry boxes, hash brown bags, and they even started putting pieces on McDonald's ads in magazines. You know, once again, they weren't really tracking the tickets, and this meant it was once again easy for Jacobson to continue on with his little scam, which was still pretty small at this time, just people that he personally knew. But then one day, while waiting for his flight at the Atlanta airport, Jacobson meets a mobster by the name of Gennaro or Jerry Colombo. He was a member of the New York Colombo crime family. Established by the Mafia in 1931, the Colombo family is the youngest of the 5 organizations and was responsible for dozens of murders and criminal rackets in the New York area for decades.
5 families have run New York's Italian-American Mafia. The names are familiar: Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, Lucchese, and Colombo.
Police in Brooklyn pulled a man's body out of the water.
No criminal organization in the history of our country has ever infiltrated legitimate institutions of society the way the Mafia was able to do.
They controlled trucking, the ports, the garbage business, and a lot of the meat, produce, and fish markets.
Jerry Colombo ran nightclubs in South Carolina, but had his hands in a bunch of other branches of the Mafia businesses as well. Now, just a side note on Colombo, this guy was a character and a half. I'm gonna go down a bit of a rabbit trail here, but I have to tell you about one of his clubs called the Fuzzy Bunny. See what I did there? There was a point where he was opening a nightclub in South Carolina and he had sunk a bunch of money into this Fuzzy Bunny Club already. And they changed some of the laws as to where nightclubs could actually be located. And so this was going to mean that he was going to have to close down the Fuzzy Bunny. Well, Colombo goes into an intense legal battle with the local authorities over this club situation.
There's an existing court order where the club cannot be opened.
That's not going to stop you from...
That's not going to stop us. My attorney told me we can, whatever we got to do, we're going to do.
Now, when it becomes evident that he is not going to win, he comes up with a genius plan. He decides that he's going to transform the Fuzzy Bunny into the Church of the Fuzzy Bunny. I'm not even kidding. This guy's like, hey, come check out my new church. Say a few prayers, have a few drinks, watch some dancers.
The Fuzzy Bunny opened its doors just a half hour ago, opening the doors to a steamy controversy.
The Church of Fuzzy Bunny.
Church of Fuzzy Bunny.
The transformation of their club into a church.
I don't see nothing with having a place where you can come in, say a few prayers, have a couple drinks, see some women dancing.
Obviously, this did not go over well with the locals.
Those two don't mix, as far as I'm concerned. Church and strip joints just don't mix.
They can't fool people. No good people is going to be going in that place.
Marianne, you're next on the line with Jerry Colombo. Go ahead. Go ahead, Marianne.
Yes, I think what you're doing is abomination to God. And it's wrong in the eyes of God, and really it's wrong in morals, too.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I guess God hasn't talked to you lately. He came to me in a dream a couple of weeks ago, and he told me what I'm doing is fine.
You say that with somewhat of a smirk on your face. I mean, you had to.
I did have a dream one night. That's why.
Well, we all have dreams. I don't know if it's divine or religious.
This one was divine.
But for Jerry Colombo, this not only gave him the means to an end he was hoping for, but also it got him a lot of attention, which was a happy bonus for him. This guy thought that he was God's favorite, even claiming that the idea for the church came from a dream that God had gave him. His wife, Robin, referred to him as a total ham. So Jacobson crosses path with Colombo at the airport, and they must have really hit it off because Jacobson basically just blurts out his entire scam to Colombo, and Colombo's like, that sounds great, I'm in. And so the McDonald's Monopoly scam was officially intertwined with the New York Italian Mafia. So to kind of prove that he had the goods and he could put his money where his mouth was, Jacobson gives Colombo a winning ticket for a Dodge Viper, and old ham boy Colombo gets himself featured in a McDonald's commercial for winning the Dodge Viper.
People everywhere are winning big, playing the Monopoly game at McDonald's. Barbara Gray won a Sea-Doo jet boat. Jerry Colombo won a Dodge Viper.
Jacobson, of course, is horrified. He thought that he was finally working with a professional here who knew how to keep things under wraps, but he obviously hadn't researched Colombo very well because that wasn't his style. Can you imagine people who knew who he was seeing him on the commercial? Like, Colombo's connection to the Mafia wasn't a secret, so I kind of wonder how that all went down with him getting to be on the commercial. But despite Colombo's showboating, the two men completely got away with stealing the Dodge Viper, and so they continued on with their plans. Colombo introduces Jacobson to the rest of his friends and family, who welcome him with open arms, and they even gave Jacobson the nickname Uncle Jerry. And the two men worked together on the scam all throughout the 90s. Colombo would act as a middleman, paying Jacobson up front for the winning ticket, distributing it to various people in his network who would then redeem it and pay Colombo his kickback. So say Jacobson had a $1 million ticket, he would sell it to Colombo for an upfront payment of $50,000, and then Colombo would arrange for someone to claim the winning ticket. Then he would collect $500,000, which he usually did as a payment of $25,000 a year for the next 20 years. So ultimately, Colombo was the one who was getting the better end of the deal, assuming that he would stick around for the next 20 years. Now, to keep from raising suspicions, the ticket redeemer would travel to another area of the country to collect their prizes. Colombo ended up giving a ticket to his father-in-law, and he traveled from Florida to New Hampshire to claim his winning ticket. By 1998, Jacobson had built quite a bit of wealth for himself. He and his wife moved into a beautiful new home in Georgia, and he bought a $65,000 classic car, which is a lot of money in 1998. He owned a lakefront property, joined the classic car club, and started going on regular cruises. And he really leaned into the whole mafia thing. He was hanging around them constantly, so he started to look the part, dressing in fancy suits and even going by the moniker Geraldo Constantino. Yeah, he thought he was hot stuff. This was all going really well for both men until May of 1998, when Jerry Colombo was killed in a car accident. His wife Robin and their son were both in the car with him, but they miraculously survived. Now, at the time, it was believed that Robin was having an affair with another man, and she wanted out of the marriage and out of the mafia lifestyle. And all this made Colombo's death feel very suspicious to his family. And while authorities ruled the entire thing a terrible accident, the Colombo family was not convinced, and they launched their own investigation into Robin. Meanwhile, Jacobson's ties with the crime family obviously weren't as deep as his mafia costume might have you believe, because once Jerry Colombo was dead, Jacobson's relationship with the family ended, and he had to find a new way to launder the winning Monopoly tickets. And it wasn't long before Jacobson found two new middlemen, Andrew Glom and Richard Cotier. These two guys hit the ground running, and they started recruiting as many people as they possibly could to start claiming prizes. Glom started picking winners from his old crime buddies who were down on their luck. And these guys weren't as smooth as Colombo had been, because the winners quickly started raising suspicions, as one of the $1 million winners ended up being a guy who had previously pled guilty to federal drug trafficking charges, and so that kind of raised some eyebrows. Now, as far as Cotier was concerned, he owned a chain of fried chicken restaurants, and it's believed he didn't realize that he was doing anything illegal. He was fooled into believing that Jacobson was trying to find real winners, because he was told that most people just throw away their game pieces, and they were handing out prizes in order to drive McDonald's sales. So many of the grand prize ticket winners would be featured in McDonald's commercials so that they could promote the game. And so as a restaurant owner himself, this idea made a lot of sense to him. Obviously, you have to have people playing the game to win the game, and you have to have winners in order to keep promoting the tickets. And so he thought, okay, that makes sense. Jacobson handed over 18 grand prize tickets to his new associates, which included almost a dozen $1 million prizes. Over the next several years, their team had won all of McDonald's top prizes. Jacobson's new plan continued to go on without a hitch until the year 2000, when the FBI received an anonymous tip. The tip claimed that one of the $1 million winners was illegitimate. This winner, Robin's father, William Fisher. Robin, you may remember, was the former crime boss wife. Well, she believes that this tip was actually called in by the Mafia as retaliation for her husband, Jerry Colombo's death. This tip also implicated someone called Uncle Jerry as being the whole ringleader behind the entire scheme. And so the FBI started following up on this tip, and they started tracking all of Robin's father, Fisher's, moves. So they put a wiretap on all of his stuff. They were tracking his bills and all of that. And so through the course of this investigation, the FBI was able to determine that Fisher had not been honest about where he had found the winning ticket. Fisher had claimed that while his main residence was in Florida, he had found the winning ticket in New Hampshire after living there for a year. However, there was no record of him having ever lived in New Hampshire. So this discovery caused the FBI to launch an investigation into other previous winners, and they discovered quite a few who had also lied about their address when claiming prizes. They quickly realized that while these winners were supposedly from all over the country, they were all sending a portion of their winning checks to an Uncle Jerry in Jacksonville, Florida. So at first, the FBI thought that the Uncle Jerry from the anonymous tip was referring to Jerry Colombo, but through the course of their investigation, they realized that it was actually Jerry Jacobson. The FBI named this case Operation Final Answer after the McDonald's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire promotion, and they had 25 FBI agents across the country working on the case. After tracking 20,000 phone numbers amounting to 235 cassette tapes, remember those, of recorded telephone calls, the FBI started connecting the dots. So during that same year, Jacobson brings on a new partner by the name of Dwight Baker, and he was a real estate developer. So he quickly becomes one of Jacobson's closest allies. Now, during this time, the FBI were monitoring Jacobson's phone calls, and so they were slowly closing in on Uncle Jerry. So at this point, the FBI has enough information from all these wiretaps that they want to sit down with the execs at McDonald's to kind of just get a feel for them. They want to make sure that McDonald's Corporation is not in on this, and they also just want to reveal to them everything that they're finding out. And so in this meeting, they reveal to these McDonald's executives that the Monopoly game has been being rigged for over a decade. Of course, the McDonald's executives are completely shocked, and their reaction lets the FBI know, like, okay, McDonald's is not in on this at all. At this point, the biannual Monopoly promotion was just about to start again. And so the McDonald's Corporation had a decision to make about whether or not they were going to keep the promotion going, knowing that it was being rigged, or if they should just cancel the promotion to prevent any further theft. You know, at this point, they feel like their customers are the ones who are being like cheated out of this money because, you know, they're legitimately trying to give money to real customers and people are stealing it. So the FBI, though, they suggest to McDonald's that they keep the promotion running one final time. They didn't quite have enough information to nail Uncle Jerry to the wall, but they felt like if they could go for one more cycle, they would be able to collect the final pieces they needed to take Uncle Jerry down. The FBI had undercover agents go out and interview the most recent $1 million winner, Michael Hoover, who had gotten his ticket from Andrew Klum. It didn't take long before arrests started happening, and in the summer of 2001, the FBI were arresting anyone they had discovered who had anything to do with McDonald's Monopoly scam, until eventually Jacobson himself was also arrested. But Jacobson had one final trick up his sleeve. Way back at the beginning of this whole thing, he had sent a winning $1 million ticket to St. Jude Children's Hospital, and when the donation clerk had received the winning ticket and couldn't determine who had donated it, McDonald's had let the Children's Hospital keep the winning prize, even though tickets were technically supposed to be non-transferable.
A wonderful anonymous donor mailed a Monopoly game piece of $1 million.
Somebody won a $1 million Monopoly game at McDonald's, and God bless him, decided to send that money to the children of St. Jude.
So after his arrest, Jacobson tried to use this and his knowledge of the Canadian scam. You know, the one where the computer picked Canada as a winner and then they just reran it until they got a winner in the United States? Yeah, that one. He tried to use that against the company or whatever. But the FBI, they weren't having any of this, and they seized all of Jacobson's assets. Now, as big as this entire scheme was, most Americans don't remember it at all. And this is because the court proceedings began on September 10th, 2001, which, as you may know, was the day before the World Trade Center was attacked. And so this obviously overshadowed the whole somebody stole a bunch of money from McDonald's thing. If you have heard of this story before, make sure you go boast in the comments down below. When all was said and done, 50 people were arrested for mail fraud and money laundering. Some of those involved got away scot-free because it was determined that they had been tricked into the scheme and they didn't even realize that like what they were doing was something illegal. The underbosses that were playing like middlemen for Jacobson, they each got 1 year and 1 day in prison. All in all, it's believed that Jacobson and his crew collected somewhere between $24 and $30 million in illegitimate grand prizes from the McDonald's Monopoly game during the 12 years that he ran his scam. Jacobson eventually pled guilty and was sentenced to 37 months in jail, which doesn't seem like a lot of time. Some people think that he was able to use his knowledge of the Canadian scandal to get a little bit less time in prison, but the judge did also order that he pay $12.5 million in restitution to McDonald's, so that's not nothing. McDonald's let St. Jude's Children's Hospital keep their winning, which I'm not at all surprised about. I mean, besides the fact that $1 million is like $5 to McDonald's, can you imagine the blowback they would get if they had taken that money away from sick children? Yeah, that would not have gone over well. Not to say that McDonald's wouldn't have done that out of the goodness of their heart. Anyway, I mean, McDonald's does have some awesome charities like the Ronald McDonald House, which helps families who need a place to stay when their children are sick in the hospital and all of that. But anyways, McDonald's was eventually able to get their money back from the other fraudulent winners as well, which I find totally surprising. That's actually shocking to me because I feel like in most of these instances that doesn't happen. McDonald's went on to sue Simon Marketing, and Simon Marketing sued them back, and then they ended up settling the whole "we hate Canadians" thing out of court, which doesn't imply guilt. It just means that it was easier to pay them out than to keep battling it out. McDonald's was quick to distance themselves from this whole scandal, and they began implementing tighter security measures to ensure the integrity of future promotions. So there's actually supposed to be a movie coming out that was being filmed in 2018 that had, I think, somebody else pretty famous like in it. And I don't know what happened to that because, I mean, it's 2023 now and where's it at? That movie's still not here. In 2020, though, HBO did release a 6-part series called McMillions, where a team of FBI agents tell the story of how it all went down. And I would love to watch that, but I don't want to pay for HBO. So if you're interested in more of the nitty-gritty details, go check that out because there's a lot more to this whole thing than what we actually talked about today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend. Maybe I'll get enough viewers and I can afford HBO. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you right here in the next one. New Hampshire? It's New Hampshire. I wrote New Hampshire. 2021. That's not right. The morons. I'm like, why would he choose to get morons involved? That's supposed to say Mormons. I typed morons. A devout member of the Mormon church. Why does that matter? You can do it. All right. I'll let you focus first. Hi. Is it me you're looking for?